She walked in quietly, but no one knew what she carried inside. His office lobby was cold. Too cold for someone who had just landed in a new country a few days ago. She stood near the reception, holding a thin file and a small cloth purse, her hands slightly trembling, not from fear, but from the unfamiliar chill in the air and the heavy silence that surrounded her. Her name was Alina. She had brown eyes that held too much for her age, soft features framed by a simple scarf, and a calmness that most people mistook for weakness. She was told to wait. 3 people walked past her, all dressed in sharp suits and heels that clicked loudly across the marble floor. Not one of them looked at her, not even once. They were busy. Too busy, important. A woman at the desk finally noticed her after several long minutes. She didn't smile. She didn't ask her name. Instead, she sighed and said, "You must be the temp." The word felt like a stamp, a quick judgment placed on someone she hadn't even taken a moment to know. Alina nodded and gave a gentle smile. But the receptionist was already back to typing. She was shown to the 5th floor. The doors opened with a soft ding. The hallway was bright, almost painfully so. Modern, clinical, without warmth. She walked in slowly, observing the framed awards on the walls, the glossy nameplates beside each office door. Everyone moved fast. Here, everyone talked fast, typed fast, walked fast, except her, as she reached her assigned deska. Small corner table near the Kapira man nearby smirked. "That the new assistant?" he asked without looking up. His colleague glanced over at Alina and whispered something behind his hand. Then they both laughed. She didn't respond. She simply placed her file on the desk and sat down. "Well, she's not much," someone muttered. "What is she? Mid-30s? Maybe older? And that outfit? It's like she came straight from the village." Someone chuckled again. Alina heard everything. Every single word. But she didn't flinch. Instead, she opened her file and began reading the onboarding documents. She read slowly, carefully. Every line. She wasn't here to impress them. She was here for something else, something none of them could even imagine. Hours passed. The woman next to her, Larog, gave her a thick pile of papers. "These need to be printed, sorted, and sent to Mr. Harrison by 5. Don't mess it up." Then she turned back to her screen without waiting for a response. Alina nodded gently as she walked toward the printer. She noticed a few employees laughing near the coffee machine. Their voices were loud, careless. "This place is turning into a joke," one said. "First they fired Daniel. Now they bring in random nobodies. What's next? Street performers." Alina printed the papers, arranged them perfectly, placed them in a folder, and walked to Mr. Harrison's office. She knocked softly. No answer. She knocked again. A voice shouted, "Come in, already." Mr. Harrison didn't even look up from his screen. He was in his 40s. Gray suit, dark-rimmed glasses, sharp eyes, sharper tongue. He took the file from her hand without saying thank you. He flipped through the pages, sighed loudly, and said, "Your formatting is all wrong." "Do it again." Alina looked at the file. Nothing was wrong, but she nodded. "Close the door on your way out," he added without lifting his eyes. The door clicked behind her, and Alina stood in the hallway for a moment, breathing slowly. Then she walked back. To her desk, she fixed the formatting, even though it was already perfect. As the hours dragged on, people continued to treat her like furniture, like she was invisible. They gave her their coffee cups to throw away, their paper stacks to organize. No one asked her name. No one said hello. But Alina remembered every face. She watched quietly, listened carefully, and waited. That night, she stayed long after everyone left. The office was dark and quiet. She walked past each cubicle slowly, looking at the way everyone worked. The notes they left on their desks, screens they forgot to log out of, the careless emails, the petty gossip, and then she walked to the CEO's office. She opened her cloth bag, took out a thin silver key. She unlocked the door, sat behind the large glass, desked and smiled, because no one knew. No one had even asked. Alina wasn't just a new assistant. She was the new majority. Shareholder. She was now the owner of everything, but she didn't want them to know. Not yet. Not until they had shown her who they really were. The next morning, she was already at her desk before the first. The employee walked in, her scarf neatly tied, her papers stacked, her face calmed. Mr. Harrison passed her without a glance. Laura dropped another stack of files on her table with a groan. "Someone needs to talk to the cleaning staff," she muttered. "This place is starting to smell like the village." Elena said nothing. That afternoon, there was a team meeting. The CEO had resigned weeks ago, and though no one had replaced him yet, the company board had been unusually quiet about the change. Rumors floated, people guessed, but no one knew the truth. The conference room filled slowly. Mr. Harrison stood at the front, looking important. "Listen up, everyone," he said. "We have a big presentation coming up next week, and we can't afford mistakes. This company needs to look sharp for whoever takes over. Understood?" People nodded. Laura whispered to someone near her, as long as the temp doesn't touch anything important. Laughter spread across the room. Elena stood silently at the back. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake, because this was exactly what she needed. Every insult, every look, every careless word, she needed to see them. Clearly, she needed to know who deserved to stay and who didn't. Later that evening, she made a phone call to her lawyer. "Yes," she said softly. "I've seen enough. Begin the review. Start with Harrison." "Are you sure?" the voice on the other end asked. "Completely." "And the others?" Elena looked out at the empty desks, the stained coffee mugs, the stack of emails she had printed for reference. "I'll tell you who to keep. And who to let go? By the end of the week." She hung up. The next morning, a message was sent to the staff. "Mandatory meeting with the new owner tomorrow morning. No exceptions." The building buzzed with whispers. "Who is it? Is it someone from overseas?
Oh.
They even speak English?" someone joked. "Watch it be the cleaning lady." Someone laughed. Elena smiled. She sat quietly at her desk. Still the same scarf. Still the same calmness. But everything was about to change, and they had no idea. The meeting they mocked would change everything. The rain had started early that morning. The kind of soft, steady drizzle that made the city feel hushed and gray. Inside the company building, the lights were bright as always, but something felt different. There was a tension in the air. It moved through the hallways like a quiet warning. Voices were lower. Footsteps were slower. And the rumor mill had gone into full speed. They all knew something was coming at exactly 9 a.m. The company-wide notification lit up on every screen. "Meeting begins in 15 minutes. Conference room A. Attendance is mandatory." People started to gather with cups of coffee and nervous laughter. Suits were buttoned tighter, hair was fixed, shoes wiped clean on the mats at the entrance. A few of them whispered again about who the new owner might be. Some thought it would be a wealthy investor from Europe. Others guessed a tech tycoon from Asia. Everyone agreed on one thing. They hoped it wouldn't be someone who would change too much. "I hope the new owner doesn't touch our bonuses," said Tom from finance, half joking. "I just hope it's someone who knows what they're doing," said Laura, adjusting her lipstick and her phone camera. "I mean, did you see that foreign woman yesterday? She filed the documents all wrong. I had to redo the whole batch. No one corrected her. No one said Elena's file was perfect. No. One knew that it wasn't Elena who needed to be corrected but them." The conference room filled quickly. It was large, with a polished glass table that could seat 30. Portraits of past founders hung on the walls, their eyes gazing down with permanent judgment. Elena walked in last, carrying a small brown notebook and wearing the same scarf she always did. She sat in the last seat near the corner, unnoticed, like always. Mr. Harrison walked to the front with a confident smile. "I'm sure you're all just as curious as I am," he began, standing tall like he was about to deliver good news. "The board informed me we'll be meeting the new owner today. Now, whoever this person is, Let's remember our company values: professionalism, unity, and excellence. The glass door opened. Silence fell. A man in a dark suit entered. Not tall, not intimidating, but his presence was sharp, clear, and final. He didn't say hello, didn't smile. Instead, he pulled out a chair at the head of the table and placed a sleek leather folder in front of him. "Good morning," he said, his voice even. "I represent Ms. Alina Milan. She is the new majority shareholder of this company." The room didn't move, not a breath, not a sound. Then Dash murmurs, double quotes, "Who? Alina? Who? Isn't that?" The man continued calmly. "She has been observing operations for the past 2 weeks. She requested anonymity to evaluate the culture, the staff, and the leadership team without bias." He looked around the table slowly. What she found, he said, was disappointing. Some people shifted in their seats. Mr. Harrison blinked rapidly. "Excuse me, I think there's some confusion. I haven't seen any Alina on the list of board members or potential investors." Alina stood up quietly. The entire room turned. They all stared. Laura nearly dropped her pen. "Hello?" Alina said, her voice soft but steady. "I've worked beside many of you, seen how you treat new people. Out. How you speak to those you think are beneath you. How you dismiss anyone who looks different or sounds different." She stepped forward, her scarf still tied neatly, her hands still calm. "What I didn't see," she said, "was kindness, respect, or even basic decency." Harrison opened his mouth to speak, but the man in the suit raised his hand. "You may want to stay quiet, Mr. Harrison," he said coldly. "Your review begins this afternoon." Alina looked at everyone. Double quotes, "I was told this company had potential," she said. "But potential means nothing without heart. And this company has lost its heart." Silence again. Then the man continued. "Starting today, a full evaluation of staff will be conducted. Roles will be reassigned, salaries adjusted, departments reshaped. Those found bullying, lying, or mistreating others will be let go. Immediately." People began to whisper. Panic rose. Laura stood up quickly. "I didn't know who she was," she said, her voice trembling. We all joke. Sometimes, right?" "It wasn't personal, it was," Alina said, without raising her voice. "It always is. And you never know who's watching." Tom from finance looked pale. I never said anything about you didn't have." "Two," Alina interrupted. "Silence is a choice too." The room fell into a deep, uneasy stillness. They had laughed at her, ignored her, used her. But none of them had ever thought she could be someone important, and that was their mistake. Alina turned toward the door. "I don't want apologies," she said. "I want change. If you can't change, then you can leave." And with that, she walked out. The man in the suit stayed behind. "First list of terminations will be issued at 5 p.m. today," he said, gathering his folder. "Good luck." As the door closed behind him, people began to speak in low, frantic voices. "How did this happen? Why didn't we see it?" But Alina wasn't playing. She was revealing, and the game had only just begun. That afternoon, 3 emails were sent out. Laura was reassigned to mailroom operations. Mr. Harrison was suspended, pending investigation. And Tom, who had been sending company data to a competitor, was terminated on the spot. People watched as he was walked out with a box in his hands. No. One laughed. No one dared. Back at her desk, Alina opened her notebook. Inside were pages filled with names, actions, and observations. She flipped to a new page, wrote one word at the top. Restoration, because now it was time to rebuild. Not just the company, but the values it had forgotten later. That evening, the cleaning staff entered as usual. An older woman with tired eyes and rough hands approached Alina. She bowed slightly and said, "I heard what happened." "Thank you." Alina stood up and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You deserve better," she said. The woman smiled, eyes moist, and for the first time since she arrived, Alina felt something shift, something warm, something right. But just as she reached her apartment, That night, her phone buzzed with a call from overseas. It was her lawyer. "We have a problem," he said. "There's been a silent move by one of the previous board members. They've submitted a challenge, claiming you used unethical means to take over. They're demanding a review of your ownership." Alina didn't speak for a moment. Then she asked softly, "Who?" He sighed. "Nicholas Gray, the former chairman. And he's coming to the office tomorrow." Alina looked out the window where the city lights flickered in the rain. "Let him come," she whispered. "Let them all come." The ghost of power returned this morning was unusually still. It's not the kind of stillness that brought peace, but the kind that warned of a storm. Alina walked into the office building exactly at 8. No security guard greeted her, not because they didn't know who she was now, but because even they were holding their breath. Everyone had read the internal memo. Everyone knew Nicholas Gray was coming back, and no one knew what that meant. The whispers began before she even stepped out of the elevator. "Do you think he can take the company back? He used to run this place like a king. He's not going to let her win easily." Alina heard it all, but her face stayed calm. Unreadable, her scarf was a soft gray today, wrapped tightly around her neck as though it was holding her together. She walked to her desk, the same desk by the copier, and sat down. Not in the executive office. Not behind the glass walls that overlooked the skyline. She chose to stay here, among the same people who once dismissed her. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to finish what she started, at exactly 9:15. The elevator. Doors opened again. Out stepped Nicholas Gray. He was older than in the picture's silver hair now, but still dressed like a man who believed the world owed him something. His suit was midnight black, tailored to perfection. His shoes shined like glass, and his eyes scanned the room with cold familiarity. People straightened their backs. Whispers stopped. For a second, it was like time rewound. "Nicholas Gray?" asked the receptionist. Half standing, he didn't answer. He walked straight through the lobby like he still owned it, because in his mind, he did. He made his way to the CEO's office, Alina's office, known without knocking, pushed open the door, except it was empty. The assistant who used to guard the entrance was gone. The gold nameplate had been removed, and on the wall behind the desk, the framed mission statement had been replaced with a single quote, written in simple font. "Power is nothing if it forgets the people."
Oh, Nicholas scoffed.
Clever, he turned, expecting someone to greet him, but no one came. He stepped out again and looked around the open floor. Then he saw her, sitting quietly at the copier table. Alina, her hands were folded on her lap, her face as still as stone. "You must be the girl pretending to run my company," he said, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. People turned, froze. Alina stood slowly. She didn't raise her. She didn't smile. "This company hasn't been yours for months," she said. "And I'm not pretending," he laughed. A deep, theatrical laugh. "You think wearing a scarf and playing the role of the humble foreigner makes you worthy of leadership? This company was built with steel and fire, not with kindness." Shh. Looked him in the eye, and that's why it rotted. His eyes narrowed. "I've filed a challenge," he said. "Your acquisition will be reviewed. The board has agreed to an emergency meeting this Friday. I suggest you prepare." She nodded. "Once, I already am." Nicholas turned to the staff, who had been watching silently from their desks. "You should all know," he said, voice rising, "that your days of soft leadership are numbered. I will bring order back, profit back, pride back. No more playing games with emotions and morality." He glanced back at her, especially not from people like her. The word people stung more than it should have, but Alina didn't react. She turned and walked back to her desk, not a single word more. Later, that day, she sat alone in the company library, a quiet room on the top floor that no one visited anymore. She spread out documents, folders, and reports on the long wooden table. Everything from company spending to employee complaints, everything that had been hidden under Nicholas Gray's rule. The corruption, the silencing, the illegal payouts, and On the far left, her own notes, scribbled in her small handwriting. Ideas for restructuring.
Act.
Names of people who needed to be uplifted. Stories she had heard from janitors and assistants and interns.
She was building something, not just a defense, a vision. But Friday was coming fast, and Nicholas Gray was not her only problem that evening. As she left the building, a black car was waiting outside. She paused. The window rolled down. Inside sat a woman, elegant, older, and familiar. Name was Eleanor Gray, Nicholas's sister. The woman who had once served as chairwoman of the board. Get in. She said. Alina didn't move. I just want to talk, the woman added. No threats. Alina hesitated, then stepped inside. The door clicked shut. The car pulled away. You've made quite a mess, Eleanor said, not looking at her. This company used to be a machine. Cold, yes, but powerful, predictable. Alina looked out the window. Machines break when they stop listening. Eleanor sighed. You think kindness will save you? I think kindness is stronger than fear, Alina replied. The car slowed as it reached a quiet park. Outside, the trees were dark silhouettes against the evening sky. You remind me of someone, Eleanor said softly. Once long ago, we had a secretary who dared to speak up. She told us our company was hurting people. We ignored her, we mocked her, and when she left, we laughed. Turned to her. What happened to her? She built a better company, Eleanor said, almost with a smile. One that buried ours in innovation. I never forgot her. There was a long pause, then Eleanor's voice turned cold. But this isn't a fairy tale, Elena. Nicholas won't back down. He's ruthless. He'll bring lies, threats, even old enemies into that boardroom on Friday. Elena's jaw tightened. Let him. Eleanor finally looked at her. Really looked? You're not afraid? I've already seen what fear does. I've seen what silence costs. I'm not here to survive, Elena said. I'm here to change. Thanks. The car returned her to her building. As she stepped out, Eleanor called after her, Then you better win, because if you don't, he'll burn everything you built. Alina walked into the building. Her shoes wet from the rain. She didn't go home. She went straight to the executive office. She opened a drawer inside. It was a file thick, sealed, marked confidential. It was the last piece. The one thing Nicholas didn't. No, she had. A letter written by the former CEO before he stepped down. It spoke of a secret vote, a list of corrupt transactions, and a warning. If Nicholas returns, do not trust the silence around him, dig deeper, and do not hesitate. Alina closed the drawer. Then she picked up her phone and called a name she hadn't dialed in years. Hello? A voice answered. It's me, Alina said. I need you. For Friday, bring everything. Are you sure? The voice asked. Yes, it's the only way. She ended the call, and outside the city waited. 3 days left, until the battle that would decide everything. The boardroom, betrayal Friday morning, arrived without mercy. The clouds hung low over the city, thick and heavy like they were holding their breath. The streets below moved slower than usual, as if the day itself knew something was about to unfold. Inside the towering glass building, the air was thick with tension. Not a word was said too loudly. Not a glance lasted too long. People walked as if they were stepping across cracked glass, unsure what might break next. At the center of it all was the boardroom conference hall be where the battle would take place. 12 leather chairs lined the long oval table.
Bottled.
Water sat untouched in front of each one. A small clock ticked quietly on the far wall. And at the head of the table sat a chair no one dared to touch. Not yet. Alina arrived exactly on time. Her clothes were simple, clean, the same scarf wrapped around. Her neck this time a deep navy blue, almost black in the soft light. Her hands were steady, her face unreadable. The man she had called 3 nights ago walked behind her, carrying a thick portfolio. He was older, with kind eyes and a limp in his left leg. His name was Marcus Reed, a retired forensic auditor. Once shunned by the old board for digging too deep. Now he was Elena's final card. Ready? He whispered as they reached the boardroom door. Ready? She said. They stepped inside. The other seats began to fill. Board members filed in slowly, men and women who once sat quietly under Nicholas Gray's shadow. Some looked curious, others cautious. A few avoided eye contact altogether. And then, 10 minutes late, Nicholas Gray arrived. He wore a confident grin and a navy suit that seemed to swallow the room. Walked in like he never left, like nothing had changed. Behind him trailed a woman in dark red, his new legal advisor, and a young assistant holding a tablet. He didn't look at Alina, not directly, but his eyes skimmed over her like she was decoration. Then he took the head seat. "Shall we begin?" he said. The chairman, a neutral legal appointee who had been brought in to oversee the transition, cleared his throat. This emergency session has been called to evaluate a challenge to the current majority shareholders' authority. Mr. Nicholas Gray has submitted claims that the acquisition process by Ms. Alina Milan violated ethical boundaries. Today, both parties may present evidence. Then, a vote will be held by this board. Nicholas sat back and smiled. "Thank you, Chairman. If I may, have prepared a detailed overview of my objections, supported by testimony, audit irregularities, and conflict of interest documents." His assistant tapped the tablet, and the large screen on the wall lit up names, dates, spreadsheets, double quotes, as you can see. Nicholas continued. This foreign acquisition conducted in silence was anything but clean. Hidden funding from offshore accounts, silent partnerships, even manipulation of undervalued stock before the buyout. This wasn't leadership. It was theft. Some board members looked down, others scribbled notes. Alina remained still. She didn't flinch, didn't link. Nicholas leaned back, satisfied. "I rest my case." The chairman turned to Alina. "Ms. Milan, your response?" Alina stood slowly. Her scarf moved slightly with the air. It's like a quiet flag in a silent war. She didn't use the screen. She didn't raise her voice. Instead, she opened her folder and laid 3 documents on the table. "This," she said gently, "is the original offer made to the previous CEO. An offer approved by the board in writing. I was asked to acquire shares to prevent external competitors from taking control. The price was agreed. The deal was clean." The first document moved across the table. "This," she continued, placing the second page down, "was a record of the payments approved by the finance department and matched with corporate tax filings." Murmurs began around the table, and then she placed the final file down. "This," she said, voice firm now, "is a sealed letter from the former CEO. He left it with his legal advisor the night before he resigned. In it, he describes the culture of corruption that existed under Nicholas Gray's leadership. He names names, he outlines threats, he makes one request: that the company be handed over to someone who would restore it." Nicholas straightened. His smile faded. The chairman picked up the letter, read in silence, then handed it to the other board members, one by one. They read it, and the air in the room shifted. Alina continued. "You speak of ethics, Mr. Gray. But where was ethics when staff were mistreated for speaking up? When funds were funneled to personal accounts in the name of consulting fees? When contracts were awarded to relatives of board members without any tender process?" Nicholas's face reddened. "Lies," he said, his voice louder now. "I built this company from nothing." "No," Alina said softly. "You built a mirror of your ego. Now it's cracking." Then Marcus Reed stood up. He handed each board member a small folder. "These," he said, "are verified reports from the last 5 years' accounts you've never seen. They were buried under miscellaneous expenses. Inside, you'll find evidence of over 70 backdoor payments. Fake vendors, ghost employees, including one named Grayson Associates, registered under a shell company in the Cayman Islands." Nicholas stood suddenly. "This is a witch hunt." "Is your reflection," Marcus said calmly. "Now the board gets to decide what they want to see next." Silence again. The chairman cleared his throat. "We will now proceed to vote." One by one. The votes began. Some were hesitant, some firm, but one by one, names were called. And one by one, the room leaned further away from Nicholas Gray. 7 in favor of Alina. 2 abstained. 1 voted against. The last board member, the oldest, Miss Catherine. Voss looked at both Alina and Nicholas. Then she said quietly, "My vote is for the one who remembered the people." And with that, the vote passed. The room held its breath. Nicholas stood frozen. He looked at the people who once bowed to him, and now they looked away. Alina turned to him, not with anger, not with pride, but with quiet finality. "You taught this company how to fear," she said. "Now we will teach it how to grow." Nicholas didn't speak. He walked out, without a word, without a fight, just silence. But as the board members began to file out, the chairman leaned toward Alina. "It's done," he said. But Alina shook her head. "No, it's only just begun." She walked out of the boardroom and headed toward the lower levels too. The break room to the mail room too. The people who never sat at the big tables, she gathered them, spoke to them, asked them what they needed, what they dreamed of, and she listened. Really, listened. Upstairs, the office was changing already. Laura stood at her desk, holding a notice of transfer. But before she could leave, Alina approached her. "You'll be trained for a new role," Alina said. "You'll work with the staff you once ignored. I hope you treat them better than you treated me." Laura looked down, ashamed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't need sorry," Alina replied. "Right. I need better." And then, just as Alina turned to leave, her phone buzzed. She answered. A quiet voice spoke from the other end. "They're coming for your family's land," it said. "Your name is everywhere now. They think it's worth something." "Threatening your brother back home?" Alina's heart dropped. Not from fear, but from the weight of knowing this fight had reached farther than she thought. "Who?" she asked. The voice said one word: Nicholas. The weight of Homeith's sky that evening was a bruised gray, streaked with thin threads of fading light. It should have been a moment of victory. The board had voted in her favor. The legacy of cruelty left behind by Nicholas Gray had finally begun to crumble. For the first time, people in the company walked with a strange new energy, a cautious hope. Whispers in the hallway were no longer soaked in fear. Emails were being answered with kindness. Even the cleaning staff had begun to smile more often. But each beep echoed louder than it should have when her brother finally answered. His voice was rushed, breathless. "Alina," he said. "Thank God. We've been trying to reach you." "I just got the call," she whispered. "What's happening there?" There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then the truth came out slowly, like water leaking from a crack in an old wall. "They came with papers," he said. "Men in suits. They claim the land doesn't belong to us anymore. They said you signed over rights years ago. They showed documents. They even brought a government officer." Alina's stomach tightened. "I never signed anything." "I know," he said, trying to keep calm, "but they don't care. They've started putting up fences around the old orchard, the one Papa planted before he died." Alina closed her eyes. That land wasn't just soil. It was the memory of her father. The place where her mother used to hum songs while washing clothes in the river. The only thing her family had left after everything else was taken. And now it was under threat. "What else did they say?" she asked. Her brother's voice lowered. "They mentioned the company. Your name said you've made powerful enemies." Didn't need to ask who. Nicholas Gray had lost the boardroom war. But this wasn't over. It never had been about just one building or one title. Men like him didn't lose gracefully. They spread their revenge in the shadows. And now her family was in his crosshairs. "Stay calm," she told her brother. "Don't sign anything. Don't leave the house. I'll handle it, Alina." His voice cracked. "Trust me," she said. When she hung up, she sat for a long time in silence. Her fingers rested on the edge of the desk, eyes fixed on a photo of her parents that she kept tucked behind a lampan old faded picture where they stood in front of the same orchard, smiling, barefoot, proud. She rose from her chair. She needed help, but not from lawyers. She needed someone who understood how to fight in the spaces where justice didn't always reach. She found Marcus in the records department, helping a junior employee sort old case files. "I need to talk," she said. He looked at her face and nodded. sensing the weight behind her eyes. In a private room upstairs, she told him everything about the land, the forged documents, the visit to her family home. When she finished, Marcus didn't speak for a moment. Then he asked one quiet question. "Do you know how far he's willing to go?" Elena looked away. "I do now." Marcus leaned forward. "We'll need proof and speed." Land disputes back. Home don't follow corporate timelines. They follow power. And if Nicholas is playing dirty there, we'll need someone local, someone we can trust. Elena nodded. "I have someone." She opened her phone and sent a message. It was a name she hadn't typed in over 7 years. Pri, I need you. It's about the land. And Nicholas, within 10 minutes, the reply came. "I knew this day would come. I'm already on a train. Meet me on video in 1 hour." Back in her office, Elena paced. Priya was more than just a childhood friend she had been. The first person to teach Elena about resistance. When their school had tried to silence girls who wanted to study science, Priya led a student protest. When Elena was forced to take a job cleaning floors at a hotel, Priya helped her secretly attend night classes. Priya had stayed behind while Elena left for the foreign city. But she never stopped fighting. When the call connected, Priya's face filled the screen. Older now, sharper. Shell companies. False paperwork. They're bribing clerks. App! But the signature on your father's deed is fake. Badly done, actually. How do we prove it fast? Lena asked. We don't, Priya said. We show them the truth before. They're ready. We go to the press. We bring cameras. We invite the villagers who remember. Your father helped half of them survive the drought. They'll speak. Lena felt her throat tighten. How long will it take? She asked. I've already started, Priya said. You just do your part. I'll tell the truth up there and I'll light the fire down here. They ended the call. And Elena knew what she had to do. She called a company-wide meeting, not in the boardroom, not on the top floor, but in the open cafeteria, where everyone, cleaners, assistants, engineers, receptionists, could attend. When she stood before them, she didn't speak like a CEO. She spoke like someone who had once been overlooked in the same way they had. I didn't come here to lead, she began. I came here to learn. The room fell silent. I came here as a foreigner, as someone whose voice was ignored, as someone who was mocked for her clothes, her accent, her silence. But silence doesn't mean weakness. People leaned in. Some of you treated me with kindness, others with contempt. But all of you showed me what this company had become, what it could still become. She paused. But now, someone is trying to hurt my family, and I can't fight him alone. A voice from the crowd spoke up. It was Anjun, a junior developer. What do you need us to do? Elena looked at him, then around the room. Stand with me, not just in title, in spirit. Don't wait for a leader to fix everything. Be the culture you want to work in. One by one, people nodded. Some clapped, some cried, but they stood. And for the first time, it felt real. That evening, as she walked through the lobby, the receptionist who once dismissed her stood and bowed slightly. Ms. Milan, she said. Thank you. Elena nodded. Not for long. Just Elena is fine. As she exited the building, her phone buzzed again. A message from Priya. Why we stopped the fencing. Villagers came. Media came. Nicholas's men left in silence. A second message followed, but you need to be careful. He knows now that you have allies everywhere. He won't come at you directly. Not yet. But his next move will be public. Elena looked at the horizon. She had crossed oceans, broken silence, and faced ghosts. In suits, but now, the final wave was rising. And this time, it would come not in whispers, but with an audience watching. The day the curtain fell Monday morning came like thunder without warning. Without pause, outside the company building, dozens of unfamiliar cars lined the curb. Black sedans with tinted windows. News vans with blinking antennas. Suited figures whispering into earpieces. Reporters clutching notebooks. Lenses pointed toward the front doors like rifles waiting to fire. Inside, the office trembled with questions. People gathered in quiet corners. Assistants refreshed news websites. The legal department whispered behind closed doors. Coming something big, and everyone knew who it involved. Alina Milan? She walked into the building without flinching, her steps calm, measured, sure. Her scarf was ivory today, simple and light, flowing gently as she moved. She wore no jewelry, no flash. Only her presence filled the room. The crowd outside shifted as she entered. Flashes, questions, voices rising all at once. Ms. Milan, is it true you falsified financial documents to take over the company? How do you respond to the new accusations filed this morning? What about your land back home? Was it really stolen? Or is this part of your global scam? She didn't respond. Not yet, because she knew who had orchestrated this storm. Nicholas Gray. He had lost in the boardroom. He had failed to bully her in silence. He had tried to shake her roots, and now he had gone public. Fabricated charges, fed to the media through shell accounts and sympathetic allies still loyal to him. A full press release accusing her of manipulating her way to power, wrapped in lies about stolen land, hidden assets, and offshore deals. A smear campaign, and it was spreading like wildfire. By noon, her name was trending across platforms. Hash, who is Alina? Hash foreign fraud, Hash Gray was right. But Alina didn't hide. Instead, she sent a message to the entire company. 3 p.m. town hall. Every employee, every department. This isn't a press conference. This is a reckoning. And at 3 sharp, the cafeteria turned auditorium, filled with people standing room only. Everyone came. Even the ones who once mocked her. Even the ones who still weren't sure what to believe. The entire company had never stood together like this before. Outside, the reporters waited inside. It was silent. Alina stepped onto the small wooden stage. There were no microphones, no stage lights. Only her voice on the truth it carried. When I first came here, she began, I was judged by my accent, my scarf, my silence. I wasn't seen, only measured. Her voice didn't shake. Then I became the owner. And they told me I didn't belong because of where I came from. What I looked like, the language I used, or didn't use. She paused, scanning the crowd. Many couldn't meet her eyes. But the people who doubted me the most were never the ones who truly built this company. It wasn't the ones who worked overtime, who cleaned floors, who checked code at midnight. It was the ones who fed off fear, who led with greed, who used titles like weapons. The room was still. Now, those same people have taken this fight beyond our walls. They want to destroy more than my name. They want to destroy the idea that someone like me, someone ordinary, foreign, simple, could ever rise. She held up a document. This is the full investigation. Third-party verified, open to the public. It clears every false claim, every dollar, every vote, every title. Marcus, standing in the back, nodded. And this, she said, holding up a small piece of paper, is my father's land deed. Signed 32 years ago. The ink is faded, but the truth still stands. The land belongs to my family, and no, LIE can erase that. The crowd began to stir, but Alina wasn't finished. She reached into her bag, pulled out the old photo, the one of her parents in front of the orchard. This is why I fight, she said. Not for titles, not for power. But because I remember what it feels like to be unheard, unseen, disrespected. Her eyes grew wet, but she didn't blink them away. I wanted to change this company, but now I want to change everything. Then she pointed to the side wall where a screen blinked to life. A video began to play. It showed the orchard back. Home. Villagers standing with signs, children holding hands in front of the land fence, a banner waving behind them. We stand with Alina. The room erupted in emotion. Tears, claps, cheers, and outside. The press caught wind. By 5 p.m., same hashtags that once mocked her were replaced. Hashtag Alina, the leader, hash truth wins. Hash humility stronger that evening. Nicholas Gray appeared on a rival news network, trying to defend himself. But the air had shifted. His words landed flat. His mask had cracked, and the world had. Already chosen back at the company, Alina returned to the same corner desk she had once been assigned as a temp. It was still there. Untouched, an intern passed by and paused. "You're the boss now," she said shyly. "Why sit here?" Alina smiled gently. "Because this is where I heard everything I needed to fix." In the weeks that followed, things changed. Radically, salaries were restructured. Anonymous staff review systems were implemented. A community council was formed with seats reserved for non-executives, janitors, and assistants. People who had never been invited to speak were now being asked to lead. And Alina, she didn't take the corner office. She left it open for meetings, for anyone, even for silence. One evening, as she walked out of the building, the wind blew gently through her scarf. She paused on the steps, looked at the sky, and breathed. A voice called from behind her. It was Laura, now working in employee engagement. "I just wanted to say," she said, "you changed me. Not with power, but with how you carried yourself." Alina nodded. "Thank you." Laura hesitated. "Do you ever get tired of being kind?" Alina smiled. "Kindness is the only thing that never empties you. It fills the world around you." Then she walked into the night, not as the underdog anymore, not as the silent one, but as the woman who was never meant to win. And did not by shouting, but by listening. Not by fighting for herself, but by standing for everyone who couldn't.